to the Rotary Club of Salem. I am Dawn Bostwick, past president for the years 2010 and 2011, and Sue asked me to preside today in her absence, and it's an honor for me to do that for her. Before we start, if you have guests or if you have announcements or visiting Rotarians, would you please place that in the chat room? And we already have one. Now I know why Sue's always going like this. Anyway, so thank you for doing that, and then we'll come back and get everybody introduced. The contractors next door on our new amphitheater erected a flag yesterday. So I thought it'd be appropriate that we say our Pledge of Allegiance to our new flag. It's our flag because it's on our property. So do you have that picture?
You want me to just display the photo?
Yeah, just display the photo and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. There's a flag there.
Okay. Can we see the photo?
Yep. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, Jessica. I took 2 pictures yesterday, went over and it was pretty impressive. They were kind of laying down some of the lattice. And then I went and looked again and they put a flag on it. So I went back and got another picture because I thought that flag was cool. I do believe Tom Golden has our words of inspiration today. Hi, Tom.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Oh, hey, Tom, I thought it was me that had words of inspiration today.
Go ahead. Well, I don't.
Yeah, paper, scissors, rock.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ryan. You're on mute though.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for indulging me.
Okay.
So the prayer that I have for us today in honor of our guest speaker, Salem Police Chief Trevor Womack, is a prayer that I adapted from works of a speaker named Kathy McIntosh, who's the wife of a police officer. So please prepare yourself in the manner that you are accustomed. God, we come before you today to honor and listen to Salem Police Chief Trevor Womack. Please go before our officers and be their rear guard. With you before and behind them, they will be surrounded in your great protection. You, God, are a shield around Chief Womack and his officers and staff. Be his protection, his glory, and the one who lifts his head. May Chief Womack be filled with wisdom and all spiritual discernment to walk in a manner that is pleasing to you, bearing fruit in every good work and growing in the knowledge of God. When he faces difficult decisions, give him your wisdom. Rescue our officers, God, from any evil and injury. Keep them safe from those who would do them harm. Our officers see far more devastation and darkness than most of us can imagine. Guard their hearts and minds with your peace that surpasses understanding. Help Chief Womack's good work shine brightly for all to see, and may our law enforcement officers and staff under Chief Womack's leadership shine among men and women like stars in the universe. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. That was really nice, Ryan. Okay, are there any guests to be introduced today? I don't see anybody in the chat room. So.
Hey, oh, Shane is raising her hand.
Oh, that's right. Shane does have a visiting Rotarian. No, she has a guest, soon to be a Rotarian.
Soon to be a Rotarian. Past President Dawn. My guest today is Tom Hoffert, the CEO of the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce. So please join me in welcoming Tom as a guest for just a second.
Thank you, Shane. Any other guests today? What about student guests in attendance today to be introduced?
Past President Dawn and fellow Rotarians, it's my honor to introduce South Salem's Student of the Month for the category of Winter Athlete. which is a little odd because we haven't had our winter sports yet. They're currently scheduled for May this year, but the category is winter athlete, and our student athlete has qualified for the state swim meet the past 3 years and is hoping for a chance at the 4th in May. And she holds 2 of our school records on our 200 and 400 freestyle relays. She's on track to be a valedictorian, which is amazing given that she also invests a lot of time in our theater program. So while she maintains a 4.0 GPA, she is a thespian and a year-round swimmer. She stands out to me for her positive and inclusive and outgoing attitude that she exudes every day, everywhere she goes, making everyone just feel really important. So please join me in welcoming Sophia Starriness.
I'm glad you said her last name because I read it and I thought there is no way I can pronounce that. Starriness.
Starriness.
Okay. And we'll be hearing from her later today, right?
Yes.
Is she on the schedule for today? Okay, good. All right. Do we have any visiting Rotarians from other clubs?
Don, in the chat, Mark said he had a guest.
Mark said he had a guest. Okay, I'm sorry, Mark. I didn't see that.
No problem. So I have a guest with me today. Many of you know already, Elena Harvey. Elena came on board with us 6 months ago at Union Gospel Mission as the public relations coordinator. She's now been promoted to public relations lead for our organization. So please welcome Elena Harvey.
Hi, Elena. Also, I
have a guest.
Okay, go ahead.
I would like to introduce to someone who you're probably familiar with, Ryan Gale, the amazing son of Mary Louise Van Natta and Harvey Gale, is with us here today as our guest.
Nice.
Happy to be here.
Thank you for coming. Let's see now. I think any other visiting Rotarians or guests, or we didn't this chat thing I'm getting used to. Okay, so are there any announcements today on any comings and goings of our club? I don't see anything in the chat room. Okay. Are there any, oh, I guess Allison, I guess it's time for bell ringers at this point. Allison has our bell ringers today.
I do. Can you hear me okay, Past President Don?
I can hear you fine.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Allison Kelly of Liberty House. And we have 5 bell ringers today. And at the end, if you would like to add one, if you can type that in the chat room, and then if you all can help me keep track of those. So first of all, this one is from Mark Hunter of Union Gospel Mission. And I guess I should start off by saying I can't quite match Trisha's prowess last week with her, or the week before, with her great PowerPoint and her really cute baby goats. So it's just me. But Mark Hunter, Union Gospel Mission, is ringing the bell 4 times to honor the new Union Gospel Mission, which is targeted to come online mid-June of this year. It has been said, quote, reality is oftentimes dreams once had, unquote. The dream of a new expanded shelter and improved services for our homeless neighbors was launched more than 20 years ago. With diligence and support of a generous community these past 4 years, that dream will become a reality this summer. It will include 150 more beds than the existing shelter, providing a total of 300, recovery apartments that will serve 78 men working to leave homelessness and re-enter our community, a dining room that will seat 220 at a time rather than 60 in shifts, a health center that will allow access to physical and mental health needs, an expanded learning center with 4 classrooms, a GED testing lab, a library and computer lab with 20 stations, and the cornerstone, a new chapel that will seat more than 250 and will be available for community events. It's coming, and it's coming soon. If you want a tour and to learn more about the last 120 days of this project, contact Mark Hunter, mhunter@ugmsalem.org, and I will put that in the chat, or at 971-701-9311. So past President Dawn, please ring the bell 4 times, 1 time for each of the last 4 years of this amazing community project. Okay, now the next bell ringer is from Ron Kellerman. And Ron would like to ring the bell for City Manager Steve Powers and all of the City of Salem staff that works so hard to de-ice our streets and quickly clear the streets and parks during the ice storm. President Dawn, please ring the bell. Thank you. And I actually have 3 bell ringers. So, and I did check my email. So if you have emailed me a bell ringer and you did not hear them read, please put them in the chat or wave your hand vigorously and we'll make sure we catch up. But the first one that I would like to do is I'd like to offer a bell ringer in honor of our guest speaker today, Salem Police Chief Trevor Womack. Chief Womack brings extensive experience to Salem and we are very lucky to have him. Chief, we are looking forward to getting to know you and to working with you. And I would also like to honor all the women and men of the Salem Police Department. In my professional career, I've had the opportunity and the privilege of working with many different law enforcement agencies over the last 25 years. And I very much appreciate Salem Police for their professionalism, expertise, and their responsiveness. There have been times when we here at Liberty House have had to request help from Salem PD for high-risk situations occurring on our campus. And those officers who have responded have always been polite and professional, excellent communicators, and very thoughtful in their help. Policing can be extremely dangerous, and there are a wide range of scenarios that officers have to respond to. Obviously, right now, there are a lot of conversations about how policing can improve, and it is my hope that we can have those conversations in the context of respect and appreciation for the challenges in the job and for all those who work in law enforcement. President Dawn, please ring the bell.
Well said.
And my second bell ringer, I would like to ring the bell in honor of Tom Hoffert and the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for all you do behind the scenes and also visibly to promote economic vitality in Salem. What the Salem Chamber does helps bring business and promote jobs. And as we know, jobs really promote human dignity and the ability to raise families that will thrive. So thank you, Tom Hoffert, for all you do for Salem. President Dawn, please ring the bell. And finally, as a lifelong Oregonian who watched the ice falling from the sky with a lot of fear the other night, like many of you, I would like to ring the bell in honor of all the PGE crews and their helpers from out of state to repair the infrastructure and restore electricity to so many households. Just watching the news about, well, a week ago Monday, there were 275,000 households out of power. And by Friday, they had that down to 60. And by this past Monday, they had that down to 4,000. And that's just monumental. So thank you. They've been working in cold rain and ice and limbs falling all around them, really dangerous conditions. So I would just like to do a shout out. President Dawn, please ring the bell for PGE and all the electrician crew that brought us back online.
Thank you. Do you have any others, Allison?
Let me check.
I think Warren and Linda Benars have a bell ringer.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I sent this to Allison in the chat, but I can go ahead and read it if you want me to.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, well, we're ringing the bell again for Salem Leadership Foundation. We did survive their 10th annual Rainfest event last Monday. Warren and I did 18 holes of golf. He did about half of that. Unfortunately, Warren's having back surgery a week from Fridays. But we had a ringer on our team, which made it really fun. We did end up in the rain, the last back 9, because we were the last team that went out. And so it was a true Rainfest for us. And we really appreciate all the Rotarians who have sponsored us and donated to Salem Leadership Foundation. I'm not going to name everybody because I know a lot of you donated to other people too, including Ryan, who's going to do Top Golf on Saturday, but he's also the top money earner so far. So if you want to donate, you can donate to Warren and I. So
Yeah,
we
but
can go
you know what? Ryan double dips. Ryan goes to like,
Ryan, yeah,
Ryan
Ryan's
double
got
dips.
everybody else already anyway.
Yeah.
So, just want to let you know, ring the bell for Salem Leadership Foundation. And if anyone still wants to donate to them, you know, they do wonderful work with partnering with a lot of you guys in the community, working with churches and neighborhoods, the homeless, the youth. And so you're welcome to contact me or Warren about sponsoring us. We have till Saturday to get the pledges in. And so ring the bell.
Ryan.
Well, yeah.
All right. Any other bell ringers today?
Looks like Susanna Owens is raising her hand.
Okay.
Yes, so I'd like to ring the bell for Holly Berry and Russ McCracken. As John and I were celebrating our 11th day without power last night, Holly called, invited us over with our laundry to have some wine and get clean. And that was really nice of her. But what's really strange, now Holly lives on Electric Avenue. And as I'm talking to Holly, our lights came on. And so I think this woman has extraordinary powers. So please ring the bell for Holly and Russ.
That was nice, Holly. I'm bringing my laundry over too.
Past President Dawn.
Yeah.
This is Cindy. If I could tag on to Susanna's thanks to Russ and Holly, I was also the recipient of a bed, a shower, and dinner during my night without power. So
nice.
Tag on to
nice. That's what we're here for, to help each other for sure.
Okay.
All right. Is that it for bell ringers?
I think so. Thank you, President Dawn.
It's now time to hear from our student of the month, Sophia. And if she can be front and center, I would try to say her last name, but it's a difficult one. So tell me again what her last name is, Laura.
My best pronunciation is Starriness, but she will be able to.
That is correct. It is Starriness.
Starriness. Okay. That's good.
For 4 years.
Thank you. I don't like it when I can't pronounce people's last names.
It's Greek and it is an uphill battle. You're not the first person.
Okay. All right. I feel better. Well, welcome and thank you for coming today. And we look forward to hearing from you. So go ahead.
Awesome. Okay. Well, first, thank you to the Rotary Club of Salem for this recognition. I'm honored and appreciative. It means a lot to me as an individual, but also as a Saxon and a member of the South Salem High School community. South has been a place of learning and growth for me in many ways. Over the past 4 years, I've had the opportunity to benefit from a variety of classes in their rigorous international baccalaureate program, and it has been challenging. I've had more than one late night doing math homework that I procrastinated on, but I've been able to fuel my love for learning. And meeting the high academic standard of the program meant that I had to develop a strong work ethic and organizational skills that can help me in and beyond college and in my future. Right now, I'm planning on studying engineering at either OSU, University of Puget Sound, or Whitman. Part of this learning culture at South is that intellectual growth happens beyond the classroom in extracurricular activities. For example, I enjoyed my work in various theater productions and as a part of the Saxon Drama Department. I take pride in my status as a thespian, thanks to the guidance and support of Mrs. Gibbons, just as much as my learning a second language, particularly under Senior Glasgow. But the highlight of my extracurricular activities at South was by far my participation in varsity swimming. As a freshman, I was fortunate enough to train under fantastic coaches and compete with a group of really amazing swimmers. I was inspired and encouraged by the team's vibrance and spirit. Their team's overall pride and positivity motivated me, and it gave me the confidence to compete in the sport that I love. Last year, as a co-captain of the team, with the support of my coaches, I was able to pass on the values that my former teammates had instilled in me onto others. Much of the credit for my personal success and growth goes to other members of the Saxon community. This includes the administrative staff who have worked to create a welcoming and supportive environment to help students prosper. I give my thanks to Mr. Armstrong, the athletic director, as well as coaches Eric and Brittany for their efforts to support individuals as athletes as well as students. I give a huge shout out to teachers like Mr. Miller, the IB physics teacher, whose hard work and kindness towards his students inspires and encourages us. My final thanks goes to Mrs. Tiffin, the principal at South, for her overwhelming support of her students in all classes and activities. She's gotten her shoes wet at more swim meets than I can count to show her support and pride in our accomplishments and efforts. The lessons that I have learned at South about community, support, and kindness, as well as the confidence that I've gained as the leader, form the foundation of my future as I move forward as a student and a swimmer. So thank you again for this honor.
Thank you, Sophia. That was really very nice, very eloquent, and you're a good speaker. I can tell you've been in drama. You're an excellent speaker. And I do believe you do get a certificate because we're COVID. I can't give it to you, but I think we still do that. But we really appreciate. Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming today. And I know that your goals and your growth will definitely happen. You seem to have some real determination in you. So good luck. Good luck to you. All right. So I'm really excited that I get to induct Tom Hoffert today. He's a remarkable person, and I feel he's going to make an outstanding member of our club. So if Shane and Tom can be front and center, we'll go and induct Mr. Hoffert. Thank you, Shane. We appreciate you introducing Tom into membership in our club. Recognizing folks that will continue to build this great club and bringing them on board is very important to our livelihood. To show our appreciation, the club will award you with 250 Paul Harris points towards your next scholarship. Yes.
Dawn, do I get to introduce him first before you go through your spiel?
Oh, yes, I probably think you probably should.
Okay, cool.
Go
because
for it.
it's about those points. It's about those points. That's why I interrupted you. Sorry for the interruption.
That's okay.
Okay, so thank you, past President Dawn. And in true Rotarian fashion, I need to disclose that the credit for bringing Tom into the club should be attributed to Chuck Swank, because he made that initial contact or contacts. I just simply closed the deal by promising Tom lots of good beer with the beer boys. So make sure, Dawn, that those Paul Harris points please go to Chuck. Okay. And also, in all sincerity, having the CEO of the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce become a member of our club is a wonderful opportunity to continue to build on that relationship between both parties. The interests of the chamber and the interests of our club are shared. We both are looking for ways to strengthen our community through the work that we do. So here's a small glimpse into Tom's background. Before coming to the chamber, Tom spent 15 years at Don Pancho Mexican Foods, which, as we all know, is a nationally recognized craft baking company in Salem. In that position, Tom led the company's efforts in business expansion and growth in the Northwest. He then went on to seek and secure corporate partnerships with the world's largest users of tortilla products and some of my favorite places to eat, such as Taco Bell, Chipotle, Whole Foods, Subway, and Walmart, although I don't eat at Walmart. In the little over 2 years at the chamber, Tom has successfully supported Salem's small businesses in sharing their stories of success. So David Deckelman, I know you're on today. Tom really should be on your speed dial because he is full of great ideas for the program committee when you take over that role. Outside of work, Tom serves as a high school, a collegiate, and a professional lacrosse official. And now our club has 2 officials. We have Barry umpiring baseball and Tom officiating lacrosse, or Barry's officiating baseball and Tom's umpiring lacrosse. I don't know. I just stick with walking. So please join me in welcoming Tom to our club.
Thank you, Shane. Tom, Through your membership in Rotary, you can build lifelong friendships and join forces with like-minded people around the world who desire to make a difference in their communities. And I know you're one of them. Our club is made up of leaders and potential leaders who are inspired by our motto, service above self. As Rotarians, we all have pledged to uphold the highest ethical standards, subscribe to the object of Rotary, and live by the four-way test. Regular attendance at our weekly meetings is an important part of your membership, but Rotary is much more than just a lunch club. As you become more involved in our club, you'll begin to understand the power of Rotary through expanded friendships and involvement in your choice of the many committees we offer. As you build those friendships and contribute to our impact here and around the world, you will truly understand what it means to be a member of this club and one of 1.2 million Rotarians worldwide. We are a vibrant, action-oriented club, and as such, we expect you to roll up your sleeves and get involved. Therefore, Tom, as the newest member of our club, do you pledge to uphold the four-way test, to serve on at least 2 committees, and to contribute to the club in every way that you can?
I do, Don.
Okay, and fellow Rotarians, do you pledge to warmly welcome Tom into our club and to offer him your full support in all that we do? We do.
We do.
Please welcome Tom Hoffert as the world's newest Rotarian. Welcome, Tom. We're so glad to have you as part of our club. I'm going to send this over to Cindy Lanasar now, who is today's program chair, and I think we have an excellent program in store for us today. So take it away, Cindy.
Thank you, Past President Dawn. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Cindy Lanasar, Community Relations Liaison at Salem Health. Let me first introduce our head table. Each person virtually seated here today has a Making the Community a Better Place, One Life at a Time connection with Salem Police Department. First, I'd like to introduce Allison Kelly, who is the Executive Director of Liberty House, which is our local child abuse assessment center. Next is Jane Downing, who is the Executive Director for Center for Hope and Safety, our local domestic violence agency. Both Liberty House and the Center for Hope and Safety, unfortunately, but thankfully, work almost daily with Salem Police Department to protect our citizens of all ages from violence and abuse. Finally, at our head table is Trisha Frizzell. She is the Program Director for Home Youth Services, supporting homeless and at-risk teens. Home Youth Services collaborates with Salem PD in many different ways, most notably their Salem PD workout club called the Gladiators and the Youth and Young Adult Homeless Initiative. Please help me welcoming the head table. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our new Police Chief, Trevor Womack. He comes to us from Stockton Police Department, and we are grateful that he is here continuing his career in Salem. Chief Womack holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Criminal Justice from California State University, Stanislaus, and a Master's of Arts degree in Security Studies from the Naval Postgraduate School, as well as he is graduated from the FBI National Academy. I have had the opportunity to meet with Chief Womack several times already because I'm the president of the Salem Police Foundation, and I'm excited for our community. I've enjoyed hearing about his experiences, philosophies, and desires to continually improve our department and make Salem the best place to live in Oregon. We all have a part to play in making Salem the best, and with what I have witnessed and experienced so far, I am eager for you to hear and meet the chief. When he isn't on duty, however, which I'm sure is very limited at this point, being Salem's top cop, Chief Womack enjoys spending his spare time fishing, going to the movies, and cheering on the 49ers with his wife, Christina. Please help me welcome our new police chief, Salem's Police Chief Trevor Womack.
All right. Thank you, Cindy, for that introduction. Super excited to be here with everyone. Thanks for having me. I've been spending so much time now. I'm approaching the end of my first 90 days on the job. And so I've been just investing so much time in trying to meet as many people as possible. And so this is yet another opportunity to meet more folks in the community, albeit virtually. I wish we could be meeting in person. Some familiar names in the room. Some of the things I talk about today you might have already heard, so I apologize there. But for folks that I haven't met yet, hopefully it'll be something new and valuable. Quickly, I wanted to mention thank you for Allison, the bell ringer, and I appreciate that. And Ryan, the prayers, very much appreciated as well. And I appreciate Rotary in general. I want to acknowledge the work that you all do, whether it's international work to eradicate polio, to the local work that's happening right here in Salem that you're all involved in directly. I really appreciate it. I was a Rotarian for several years back in Stockton with Stockton Delta Rotary, and we had some great work that I was involved in back there that I loved being part of Rotary. So I just wanted to acknowledge that as well. I'm going to try to do a little screen share here real quick, and hopefully this works properly. If not, we'll go without it, but let me see if I can get this started here. There we go. Is that showing properly? Somebody give me a thumbs up. Okay, great. Excellent. Well, look at here. We got a brand new police facility photo. And so I can't say enough about the facility, how wonderful it is, how thankful we all are to the community for providing this facility for us. And it's made such a change with our department and morale and attitude and ability to function in a nice, workable space. It's been excellent. So thank you all for that as well. I thought I would just talk a little bit about myself. I know Cindy already introduced me a bit and touched on some of this, but just to get to know folks, I think it's we don't want to be strangers anymore. So I wanted to introduce myself a little bit more as well. So as far as family, I'm married to my wife Christina now for just over 10 years, and together we have 5 children. And so my 2 children are older: a 27-year-old daughter who's in law enforcement now, and a 21-year-old son who's still going through school, but he's moved out on his own, and then 3 stepchildren as well. The youngest of whom is 16 now, and he's still in high school. And so that's why my wife is still back in Stockton, California, where I come from, and we're in that transition period, letting our son finish sophomore year of high school and decide if he wants to stay in Stockton, finish out school there, or move up to Oregon with us. So my wife will be joining me here in early summer, and then we'll earnestly begin looking for a house here in Salem to buy. Career-wise, I spent 29 years with the Stockton Police Department, and I spent my whole life in Stockton. I was raised there. 29 years with the police department, all different areas I worked in the department. I spent the last 8 years as a deputy chief there, which is the number 2 position. So I worked closely with the chief of police on all manner of items. The quick touch on highlights from Stockton that I think that give me some unique experiences is Stockton went through municipal bankruptcy, and the police department suffered drastic cuts, and then we also rebuilt the department after that. So I had kind of a unique experience going through a bankrupt city and experiencing 25% pay cuts and also staffing reductions, and then rebuilding the organization almost from the ground up. So that was a unique experience. And then also Stockton is a very busy city, a lot of especially violent crime, plagued with violent crime. And so I have a lot of experience managing violent crime and taking some progressive approaches towards gun violence, gang gun violence, things like that. So hopefully, and trust building with our community. In Stockton, we were part of a national initiative that was about building community trust and justice. And we implemented some progressive ways to bridge the gap that exists now between law enforcement and specifically some of our disadvantaged communities. And so the experience I gained from there, I'm hoping to bring with me into Salem, because I think those experiences that we tested out in Stockton, that we learned from in Stockton, I think are valuable to our entire profession, not just here in Salem, but law enforcement profession as a whole. So I want to bring that into this community also, and share that here. Education, Cindy touched on that. I started nothing but a high school diploma as a police officer, like many of us do, I think. And I just continued to educate myself throughout my career. So again, I have my bachelor's degree, my master's degree. And community-wise, as far as my activities in my past hometown, I mentioned I was a Rotarian for several years. I've always been actively engaged in some sort of volunteer effort on a board with a charitable organization. So I did 4 to 5 years with United Way of San Joaquin County as a board member. I did 6 or 7 years on the board, the Stockton Police Chaplaincy, a nonprofit organization there. And several others as well. But I'm always looking to interact with my community in that way and give back also. So that's just a little bit about me. As far as how am I approaching the first year on the job? Again, this is just coming up on the end of my first 3 months, my first 90 days. But overall, my approach has been that I want to spend the first 3 months like I've been doing, just getting to know the community. I've intentionally not been making any major decisions about the department. I think it's important first to settle in, really understand the context, develop some trusting relationships inside the department with my law enforcement partners from other agencies, from community members, before we start making any sort of major decisions. So I've spent most of the time so far doing exactly that. But now, that's the meeting, listening, learning, and observing. Now I'm beginning to transition into more of a methodical assessment phase, where I'll spend several months digging into the organization, learning about things like, what are our processes for hiring and recruiting and training? How about our policies and procedures? Are those all up to date and current? How are we structured as an organization? What's our organizational structure? And how are our staffing levels in general? What sort of technologies are we using? What sort of crime fighting strategies exist? So just assessing the organization from top to bottom. So that's the phase that I'm in now. And then looking forward for the second half of this year especially, we're going to move into a strategic planning phase where we can begin to identify exactly where we want to go as an organization. What are our top priorities? What are our overarching goals and objectives to reach those goals? And I'm going to go through a process to build that plan inside the organization with a lot of input up and down the chain of command, and also from the community as well, with the goal being that by the time we reach January of next year, that plan is in place. Everyone understands it and understands their role in that plan, and we're just ready to launch into 2022 with a new shared vision for the organization, very clear vision moving forward. So this is my overall approach toward the first year. Now, as many of you know, when I started, there was some things going on already that took a lot of my attention. There was some pretty significant protests happening in our community, unfortunately. Of course, we're a capital city, which draws those protests into our community, and we were all affected by that in one way or another. So I spent a significant amount of time for that first month and a half, working on communications, especially around protests with our community, with the various groups that were involved in protests even, and with our partners, to make sure that we had a clear strategy in place as far as how we were managing protests, and that we were clearly stating what our goals and objectives were, our priorities during the management of protests. And so we did a lot of communications work around that for about a month and a half. And the second part of that also was preparations, making sure that we were as prepared as possible for the protests before they occurred. A lot of work goes into those in advance. So using an ICS, or an incident command system model, we structured our command structure here at the department to manage those protests well, and include all of our partner agencies also. So it took a lot of considerable time and effort, and it was very draining on our staff. But thankfully, knock on wood, those protests have calmed for now. I hope that continues, and we can get back into the good work that needs to be done within the organization. I want to touch on my policing philosophy, because even though I may not have all the specifics detailed out yet as far as where we're heading as an organization, this is the philosophy that I've developed over the past 29 years in law enforcement, and from my own past experiences, that I bring with me into Salem. And that it's really a lens through which I'll be assessing the organization, and we'll be working towards making changes within the organization through the lens of this policing philosophy. And there's two pillars, and they're equal pillars actually. The first one being smarter policing. That's much more about being data-driven in our decision-making, looking for evidence-based approaches or research-based approaches that we can apply within the organization and that are effective and that work well for our community. So that's really what the smarter policing philosophy, or the pillar, is towards that philosophy. But just as equal on the other side is principled policing, and that's much more about who we are as individuals and who we are as an organization. Things such as our commitment to trust building with our community, how we treat and interact with our community, and our values, our character, our ethics. So between these two pillars, we begin to implement all the things that we want to do. And if it doesn't meet the test, similar to the four-way test, if it doesn't meet the two-way test of the two pillars within our policing philosophy, then we're not going to do them. And so, for example, building analytical capacity, there's a need within this organization, I can tell already, to increase our crime analysis capacity and our data analysis capacity so that we can be data-driven, so that we can make data-driven decisions. And so we'll be looking to do that in a way that's both smart and principled and right on down the line. So we want to make sure we're communicating well internally, externally, we're transparent, that we're working on recruiting a qualified and diverse workforce, that we're trust building and racial reconciliation work is happening as well. And again, that applies to both sides. It applies to how we police, our policing strategies, our crime fighting strategies, but then our approach to those as well, as far as our character and how we treat folks during that process. And then a huge focus on officer safety and wellness. And with what our officers have been faced with over the past several years, whether it's protests or calls to defund the police or the trust issues that exist now, there's extreme pressure and tension on officers, and we need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves within the organization and supporting officers so that they can have healthy relationships, healthy lives in general, even outside of work, so that they can approach their jobs from a healthy position and be the professionals that we need them to be at all times. And thankfully, with the Police Foundation this year, their focus is also officer wellness. And so we'll be doing some extra work in that area very soon in partnership with the foundation. Kind of another look from our new police facility through the art out front. And through that lens, we're going to bring a community approach. I can't wait to open up this facility. When we look at the front of our new beautiful facility, and because of the pandemic, inside the organization, we're enjoying it very much, but we've had very little opportunity to bring folks into the new facility. And we can't wait to share this facility with the community and open up the large community room, for example, for meeting spaces, whether we're recruiting events or various types of meetings, Rotary meetings, community meetings, all sorts of things we want to welcome into the building so that we can show off the building and continue to build upon the relationships that already exist in this new space. And so I'll be looking hard at as we emerge from this pandemic, and I can't wait until we shake off the binds of this pandemic and this community is just unleashed again. I've only been here for 3 months, but I can tell what a vibrant community this is. And I can't wait to just shake off the binds of COVID again and see what this community has to offer once we spring back to life. I'm really looking forward to that as well. So that's a little bit about me, a little bit about the approach, my policing philosophy, and my vision for the agency moving forward. And I really look forward to getting to know more of you better and hopefully even taking some questions now. So I'll ask Cindy. Stop sharing here.
Dawn, are you going to manage questions or would you like me to? I'm looking in the chat. Does anyone have a question for Chief Womack at this time? Jane, I see your hand.
My virtual hand and my literal hand. Yes, Chief Womack, Jane Griggs. It's nice to meet you virtually. I know that there are some communities that are looking to their police force, and the police force is changing the paradigm of how they respond to the mentally ill in our community. What's your philosophy on how that may change or how you can make that better as a first responder in a mental health crisis?
For sure. This is such a big topic. I can go so many different directions with it. One thing I will say about this issue in general is I think, and again, as a profession, not just here in Salem, that far too often the police become the only responder to folks in the field that may be experiencing mental health crisis, and those unsheltered folks in our community that often have these deep social ills that the police can't solve. And yet, because there are sometimes criminal behaviors associated with those problems as well, when folks call, whether someone's creating a disturbance or trespassing even, there's really oftentimes no one else to call except 911, and which triggers a response from the police. And so too often I think police officers are placed in situations where they're dealing with situations that they perhaps should not have to be dealing with at all, and they're just not the right folks. And so my role I see as an executive level position would be to try to find ways to encourage the collaboration that's required with other service providers, whether they're government or nonprofit or faith-based organizations, for example, to bring folks together to partner in our response. And so continuum of care, all the things like that that are working in that area, I greatly support, and I want to stay active in as well. But just internally within my own silo here within the police department, we want to make sure that we're training our officers properly. And I know officers here at Salem have had that training already. We might want to expand upon that even further as far as de-escalation skills and being able to recognize the signs and symptoms of other social problems that may be occurring, whether it's behavioral health issues or addiction problems, and making sure that we can respond as best we can in those situations and recognize perhaps a behavior that's being seen is not necessarily a threat that needs to be responded with force, but the proper resources need to be brought in the scenario to de-escalate the situation. So that's my general view on that. I do believe that this is oversimplified, but a lot of times the crux of the problem, I believe, is that there's no single entity or organization in charge of, for example, ending homelessness. There is no organization to end homelessness. And so that is part of the problem, and it requires extreme levels of cross-boundary collaboration to bring the right folks together to address these problems in the right way. And so there have to be strong leadership at the various levels and organizations to work together and be committed to that partnership to work together to solve those problems properly.
Thank you, Chief. Susanna, you have your hand raised.
Oh, she's saying no, she didn't have a question.
That was from the bell ringer, sorry.
I have a note in here welcoming you, Chief. Willamette Valley Hospice has been thankful for the police department support over the past 40 years and looking forward to working with you. Any other questions for the chief?
Don't see any.
This is almost like one of my roll calls here. Any questions?
Allison has a question.
Allison has one.
Yeah. Thanks, Chief. Great presentation. And again, welcome. You know, I think a question that we would naturally ask as Rotarians would be something along the lines of, what can we do for you? You know, you're new to the community, you've got transition in your family and stuff like that. So you may not be able just to answer that on the spot, but just know that that's an open invitation. Whatever we can do for you to help you, you know, get to know our community a little bit or whatever. I think you're right. We have an incredibly dynamic community with really, you know, it's just the right size. We have amazing people. And so we're happy to have you here, but we also want to find out if there's anything we can do for you, you just let us know.
I appreciate that very much. I'll be looking for ways. You're right, Allison. It's been overwhelming. It's sudden, you know, big life change moving up from California. So that's still going on. And then just there's so much to learn in such a short period of time. And so I'd ask for a little bit of patience to get me to settle in. But then any kind of support in areas like I'm very interested in making sure that we're engaging with our community across the board as deeply and personally as possible. So any opportunities for community meetings or programming or engagement there that doesn't already exist, we want to keep doing what we're doing, but any new opportunities that you're aware of or suggestions that you have, I'd appreciate those. And I do love just meeting as many people as possible. So if there's other meetings that you know of that you'd like to invite me to, please do, and I'll do my best to get there.
Chief, I have a question, which I know the answer to, so you can share with with Rotarians. Within our department, can you give us a little bit of structure? What are our specialty units? How is our agency structured, and how many officers and unsworn do we have?
Sure thing, yes. So we have just about 190 sworn police officers here. As usual, the majority of those folks are on patrol, which is just the core function of the agency. So handling emergency calls for service, for example. And so the vast majority of officers are on patrol, and then the structure goes up from there. There's 24 sergeants, so line level supervisors. There's 8 lieutenants for the mid managers. And then there's 3 deputy chiefs that work directly with me for the 3 divisions of the police department. And those divisions are patrol and investigations and support. And so it's kind of a traditional structure for a law enforcement organization. The department's big enough to where there are a lot of the specialized units, which is it's good for officers that work here. There's a variety of assignments that they can experience, whether it's a K-9 program or more of the CSI type work too, the crime scene investigations, or SWAT team, the field force that was used, for example, during protests. There's a specialized team to handle crowd management situations. There's on the wellness side, there's support programs as well for our wellness network, like a peer support program. There's a chaplaincy program within the department as well. There's all sorts of special units on investigations too, whether you're talking about investigating auto theft or property crimes. There's areas focused on persons crimes, from homicide down to, for example, street robberies. So there's just all manner of law enforcement assignments and special units within the Salem Police Department, which makes it exciting. And it provides a great service to the community. It's a well-serviced organization.
It looks like there's a follow-up question for that from Ron Kellerman. How many officers are on patrol during any shift, during the different shifts?
That's a good question, and I'm still learning a lot of those details myself. But it kind of does depend on which hour of the day, because some of the shifts overlap too. So sometimes there'll be overlapping shifts where more officers are on duty. And of course, overnight from about 1 o'clock in the morning till 5 or 6 a.m., there's probably the fewest number of officers. That's our quietest time. And then we do our patrol staffing based on call loads. And so typically the most officers are on duty in the very late morning, afternoon hours until around midnight. That's when we're staffed the most. And there's, I believe, 120, don't hold me to that exactly yet, about 120 officers assigned to patrol in general, and they're divided up on shifts like that, kind of scaled based on the call load.
Fabulous. Next question is going to come from Tim Sinatra. Tim, do you want to unmute and ask?
Sure. Trevor, nice to meet you. I was in Tracy, California with Boys and Girls Clubs. Met my wife there, and we've been happily married for many, many years, so we know Stockton well. So welcome here and look forward to, I'm the CEO for YMCA, but I worked for Boys and Girls Clubs here for 7 years, but 23 years for Boys and Girls Clubs of America. And one of the great things in Boys and Girls Clubs in the Ys was a lot of times when the police officers would stop by, walk through the facilities, and really help the youth and families see the officers as an asset, as a connector, in many ways. And I remember many times my clubs would be empty when Officer Mike would pull up and do his siren out, and kids would come outside to meet him and talk with him and so on. It was a wonderful relationship. Do you see, I know the officers are very busy with their schedules and, have a lot on their hands. Will that be an opportunity under your leadership to continue some of that? I know we have great interaction historically here, and I was just curious about your perspective on that.
Yeah, completely on board. I agree. We need to create as many spaces as possible for those type of positive interactions, especially with youth. And you did touch on there that the officers are very busy, and I could tell already that we are stretched pretty thin, and officers have very little time to do some of the positive community engagement work that I think we need to be doing more of, and that's going to be a challenge. I have to try to find ways to navigate that. And it makes me think of the community policing audit that's just finishing up now. And some of the findings in there will be around youth engagement. But the key theme throughout that I see so far is a bit about our staffing levels, because when officers on patrol are going call to call, it just leaves very little time for those type of positive interactions to happen. And so that'll be a challenge. That'll be something for me to work with for sure. Is if additional staffing isn't the answer, then how do I make use of our current staffing and prioritize things in a way that carves out enough time for that positive community engagement that needs to happen? But small, easier things like that, we definitely want to make sure we're doing.
I think we have one more question from Linda Benars, and then after that, we'll have to tie it up, I think. Linda?
Yeah, this is kind of a follow-up from the, I'm on that. We got two computers going here. Anyway, a follow-up from regarding the mental health and the homeless. We happened to have a homeless lady at our office unit, a few weeks back, and an officer came by and helped us with her. And he mentioned that there is a behavioral, I forget what the name of it, unit, kind of like you talked about in terms of trained with, and I know there's a crisis connection with Marion County Mental Health, because I've used it with some of my clients. I'm a mental health therapist. I just wondered if you could describe that particular unit a little bit better for us to understand, and how people might be able to call upon it.
Sure.
Rather than having to call police.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And even through calling police, when that unit's on duty, we can refer the right folks to respond when possible. So it's just not 24/7, but definitely that partnership's there. And we have 2 officers assigned to the behavioral health unit in partnership with Marion County, and so we can respond to those type of calls in the right way when those folks are on duty. And so they're pretty much Monday through Friday type business hours assignment. And that's great. We need to expand those type of partnerships, I believe. And then along those lines too, it makes me think of LEAD program, which is Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion, and also in partnership with the Marion County DA's office. And so the whole idea with that program is to divert folks away from the criminal justice system even before arrest. So at the officer level, recognizing when folks would be better to get into programming and focused on from a more of a mental health perspective to provide services. So that we're engaged in that program as well. These are the type of things that I think just need to be expanded, actually. So it's promising that we have those, but it's just inadequate. We need more.
Well, thank you so much, Chief Womack, for spending some time with us today and letting us get to know you. Welcome to Salem. We're glad you said yes, and we can't wait to meet your family. And I think some of your positive philosophies will be a great asset to our police department. So thank you very much for sharing those. Thank you for this service to our city, and in honor of your time with us today, we make a donation in your name to our own Salem Rotary Foundation. So that goes to help good works around our community. Thank you again for coming. Welcome, Tom Hoffert. So glad you're part of our meeting, or part of our clubs now, and we look forward to putting you to work for sure. I don't know, last time I counted, we had like 50 committees, so you shouldn't have a problem finding something to do. So next week, we will launch our Hunger Awareness Month, and the presentation will be brought to us by Rick Alpo. So with that, because we are out of time, I am going to adjourn the meeting, and you all have a great afternoon. See you later.